So the thing is that nowadays when patient comes to us, to Ayurveda practitioners, they might be on several drugs, and they will come to us and ask, doctor, to reduce my sugar level, you give some medicine. That is not the right scientific approach in Ayurveda. So we have developed, as BBA pioneers, myself and my husband, we have developed certain strategies which can be applied, to achieve optimized medical care to the whole individual. When we are treating for diabetes in a patient, we should be considering the whole individual. He might be on hypothyroid drugs, he might be on some lipid lowering drugs, he might be on antihypertensive, he might be on antihistamine. We cannot do treatment where we do not stop such medicines and do something to reduce his blood sugar. That is the difference between SBABA and other conventional Ayurveda treatment.
So basically you treat the body as a whole, right?
Body as a whole,
Yes.
integral estimation of all the pathologies present in the same subject. So like that we can do. That is the uniqueness of SBABA.
So doctor, all the alternative modalities who practice it this way, basically our aim is that everybody's body is different. So as a result, it may not be the same remedy which will be applicable to all, right?
Actually,
a constitutional remedy.
Yeah, but there is something right and something wrong also in that point, which you mentioned. There is a misconception that Ayurveda treats by constitution, analyzing the constitution of individuals. That is absolutely wrong. Analyzing the constitution is not for diagnosis or treatment. Okay, so it is entirely different. To analyze the constitution, the objectives are different. While coming to treatment, there are different pathologies in the same subject or single pathology. So there are specific tools to analyze the intertangled multiple pathologies. It's not like different special analytic reductionism is not encouraged in Ayurveda. So suppose a person has hypothyroid and diabetes presenting with an upper respiratory infection. When we are treating for an infection, his other things are also taken care of automatically, not by giving separate medicine to them. So such a kind of integrated, unique approach of applying the principles of Ayurveda is done by SBABA.
So minimal medication for maximum benefits.
Yeah, exactly. So for the first time in the history of Ayurveda, we have introduced a system called fragmented dosage approach. Fragmented dosage approach in Ayurveda. You know that currently Ayurveda prescriptions are loaded by medicines. So it is SBABA who has developed rational standards for prescribing, diagnosis and prescribing in a standardized manner. So any qualified Ayurveda doctor can train this methodology. We have developed a methodology for that, and with which we can administer most of the times without medicine. By modifying lifestyle also we can reverse acute diseases. And if we are introducing medicine, we are giving it fragmented dosage approach, minimum pinches of one classical medicine tablet or 10 ml or 5 ml of one kashaya. Like that we can introduce in a day. So not only that it is financially helpful for the patient, but also the results are very fast, on the target, and also economic status will improve. And there is no problem of any side effects or anything, because the medicine dosage is that much negligible. And moreover, there are other things to be mentioned regarding side effects, which I am not mixing up in this point. Anyway, so this is the main point with respect to science-based, evidence-based Ayurveda. So it is Ayurveda as it is. Ayurveda which is intended to be, and not the commercial Ayurveda, what you find around as Ayurveda.
So do you recommend Panchkarma? Because that is like the buzzword for anybody who talks about Ayurveda, wants to immediately know about Panchkarma, ki ek bari wo to karwa lo, then, do the rest. That's how they approach it. So do you recommend?
So it is like there are specific, I would say that among the whole kinds of diseases, nowadays, diseases can be classified as infective diseases, inflammatory diseases, metabolic diseases, immune diseases, circulatory diseases, etc. And very rarely some congenital diseases are there, genetic diseases. But the thing is that only less than 5% of the whole kind of diseases less than 5% only requires Panchakarma. Okay, Panchakarma is a serious procedure as surgery. It's not loosely like detoxification. Detoxification is not Panchakarma. Mostly there is a common myth in the society that Panchakarma will remove toxins. It is not like that. It's not meant for removing toxins. For removing toxins, we can do exercise. We can improve our metabolism. We can improve our hunger and remove toxins. Why to go for this much complicated, serious procedures to remove toxins? You can drink boiled water. You can eat whenever you are most hungry. You can do active exercise in empty stomach. These things do not cost anything, and that will remove toxins on its own through sweat, through urine, through feces. So it is not an expensive procedure. So Panchakarma as such is a serious procedure, as serious as surgery, I would say. And it has to be done with all indications and contraindications are to be taken care of by the physician before recommending such a procedure. So what you find around today, that what you Ishmiji told now is not right. 95% of diseases can be reversed without Panchakarma within an OP setting. There is no need of admission of the patient also. Such an accurate science it is, which is terribly distorted to a very detrimental level.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, it is really, really sad. And that is what the alternative initiative aims at, you know, to bring together the best doctors who are actually practicing the sciences in the most authentic way. That is the aim. Because I have also realized it's with due respect to all doctors, because they really work hard. Whatever the science they must be practicing. But you know, as we are all aware that commercially they have targets to meet, they have so many surgeries to be done, and so much medication to be offered. At the end of the day, the common man is suffering, because you know, with a lot of faith and with a lot of trust, they surrender and they bow down to the doctors in white coats.
Exactly. Right.
So that is the whole purpose of the alternative initiative, to combine, you know, to bring, to, you know, cover up this gap between the authentic practitioners and what the common man really needs.
Really, truly appreciate your hand on it. Really.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, doctor, you know, if you could let us know that how the minimum dosage can help in the recovery, like you mentioned, that the minimum dosage will help in the recovery of various ailments.
Actually, when we are administering a medicine, it must be, the first thing is that the medicine should be correct. Correct in the sense, in Ayurveda, a medicine is targeted to reverse the cause mechanisms of the disease. And a medicine works not by the chemical constituents inside. In Ayurveda, pharmacodynamics, according to the principles, there are specific principles. So the potency factor, there is a scientific terminology for potency factor responsible for the action of medicine in Ayurveda. That is called as Virya. Virya is not active principle. So in order to make a medicine active, the Virya which is to be selected in that case is to be correct. And this is the most difficult part for a physician. A physician can take 10 medicines and with different Viryas, and entirely, like, it's like opening different programs in a system. You know that the computer will go completely confused. So like that, if you administer different medicines, different Viryas, then totally body will get confused. So this is not the right approach. The first approach is, when you are correct, choosing the right Virya. Right Virya is present in the right medicine. Why you need to do different? So it is receptor oriented, like receptor targeted, just like lock and key mechanism. Here the pathogenesis is, site of pathogenesis is to be comprehended first. Sometimes it will be single, sometimes it will be intertangled. So there are certain important crucial links which are to be understood. That is what is called translational medicine. Suppose a patient with infection has hypothyroid and allergy. You must be able to know, a physician must be able to know the links, connecting links between these diseases, and how to target the Virya exactly to the target, and choose the right medicine. Medicated water, it's not medicine alone that works. It's not medicine, because you are not doing any blocking, masking, suppressing, etc. You are going to only reverse the disease. There is nothing like blocking pathways, pain pathways, suppressing immunity. Such kind of approach is considered to be impure or unscientific in Ayurveda. Yes. So when you are aiming to reverse a disease, Definitely pathologies are influenced not by the medicine alone. Whatever you are doing, what kind of food you are taking, what kind of life you are leading, what kind of addictions you are having, every sort of things deserve attention by the scientific practitioner of Ayurveda. So he will be considering the entire lifestyle for a day for you. And he will make scientific amendment in such a way to reverse the pathogenesis. So it is like, just like how you solve a problem rightly in a mathematics word problem. Exactly like that. So we don't need so many medicines, in fact. And second thing is that today, two things are there. One, impaired digestion.
Yes.
People are having impaired digestion and metabolism. All the factors, sedentary lifestyle, many drugs are being taken, many synthetic foods, chemical foods are taken, so many things. So digestion is impaired, metabolism is impaired. Third, most important, immune status is impaired.
Yes.
So these, in such a situation, if you are giving heavy dose of medicine will not do anything. Either medicine will be eliminated as such without getting metabolized. It may eliminate. It cannot be targeted to its own receptors in the body. And you are not trying, if you are not trying to create the clarity in the body cells, improving the receptivity, clarity, etc., by following scientific diet and regimen in accordance to the cause mechanisms of the disease. It may vary from person to person. For a person with infection, the scientific nutrition vary from that of a person with diabetes or from that of degenerative disorder. So everything varies. So these things together are working, and with fragmented dosage, virya can be targeted exactly to the specific receptors in the body. And we can start getting results within hours or minutes. The results will start within minutes. Suppose a patient is having 9/10 pain with inflammation. We are starting medicated water, we are starting scientific diet, we are starting granule of one medicine. You take one granule in every hour and report pain scoring to after 2 hours. Patient will report now it is 5/10 or 4/10. So this happens when the media is correct. When you have selected right medicine and the patient is following everything correctly as explained by the doctor. So this is a very easy process and there is no cheating here, only treating. Because we are not trying to, what you call, adversely do some process or artificially modify something and create some blocking some pathways, or nothing is being done. Naturally, the etiopathogenesis is getting reversed by scientific treatment. Such a kind of strategies are developed for the first time by science-based, evidence-based Ayurveda. So in 2012, it's developed. Yeah.
It's a complete holistic approach where you treat the root
Exactly.
cause and not just the symptoms.
Exactly. Yes.
So, how does the minimum dosage work?
That's what. So when minimum dosage, as I told you, it's not the quantity that matters. It is the accuracy and the right medicine which is responsible for potency of the medicine. So initially, when we started our research in 2003, for example, one example I'll give, Kashaya dosage. Kashaya dosage is 50 to 100 ml. Okay, one Kashaya dosage, general dosage. Presently, what is prescribed by an Ayurveda doctor, I'm telling, it is 50 to 100 ml. So we wanted to make it, when we are choosing the right medicine, why we know presently patient is having altered immune status, metabolic status, digestive status, toxicity is there in person's body. So if the medicine is loaded into his system, it's not fair. We felt like that. And in 2003, we started this fragment dosage system. So we started, first of all, we applied in our own children and our own body. Instead of taking 50 ml, we started with half spoon kashaya or 1 granule of tablet. Like that in our own infective fevers, acute diseases, we have started. And surprisingly, the results are so fast and accurate. It's not that we don't need to take so many medicines and so much of dosage. It was clinically evident from all this, right from 2003 till this date. Now it is 2021. Clinical research, we are having clinical data. Other practitioners are there who are trained by us, who are also doing this fragmented dosage approach. There, right medicine, right dosage, pinches of medicine or 2.5 ml. You can imagine the difference. In the place of 50 to 100 ml, we are giving 2 ml or 2.5 ml at one time. So
Yes.
the whole day dosage will be 20 ml or 10 ml. Instead of that, 100 ml or 150 ml will be the other one. So this is the difference. So by clinical and basic research, we have developed this methodology.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So, basically, I would like to say that how the body has its own healing capacity. As nature care practitioners, we believe that the prana which keeps us alive, that is what actually has the healing capacity as well. So we only need to get support through various sciences to be able to push that prana to heal with minimum.
Exactly.
That's why
so this is the difference. This is
Yeah.
the difference between modern medicine and Ayurveda.
Yes.
So in Ayurveda, it is like you are exactly, there is nothing else other than reversing cause mechanisms. So reversing cause mechanisms is done by the body itself. Suppose metabolic error is there, diabetes is there, hypothyroid is there. Even infection is a metabolic error. Whatever pathogen invade our body, we all are not getting infected at the same time. Is it not? Many of us are not getting infected. So it is an immune response which is determining. So infection is not cured by any medicine. Infection is cured by innate immune system and adaptive immune system. So innate immune system is the first soldier who is recognizing any invader attack in the body, in the cells. Immediately policeman will be released into the blood. White blood cells are there. So Ayurveda has explained scientific techniques, how to activate this policeman in favor of host. In favor of host means patient and adverse to pathogens. So anti-virulent strategies are there in Ayurveda. How to destroy the strength of virus, how to modify the innate immune system to destroy virus. So that is what is called resistance strategies. Now what we are doing is avoidance strategies from outside, what we can do. But resistance strategies, most important thing is decreasing the virulence of the pathogen and improving the tolerance of the body, improving the strength of the cells, decreasing the damage caused to the cells by pathogens. These things, specific measures are advocated in the science of Ayurveda.
Lovely.
So it is resistance strategies which are more important. Cannot be, if you kill virus also, there is no guarantee that you will recover. So recovery is entirely, you know that many times after COVID test becomes negative, also patient is dying. So inflammation is the reason for death. So inflammation has to be reversed. To reverse inflammation, these strategies are to be activated. So this is what exactly Ayurveda is doing. And that is why it is able to reverse diseases and not just control or suppress or prolong lifelong medication. Such concept is not there in scientific Ayurveda.
Very nice. Very nice. So is there any way, that that allopathy and Ayurveda can be combined? Do you think, there can be some, because the first approach, unfortunately, is because of the ease of availability of modern medicine. Nobody, has access to alternative medicine, which ideally the way, if practiced authentically, should have been modern medicine of today. Right?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
with just this support and the healing capability of the body, there is so much, and people can live such a healthier and happier life and pain-free life, more importantly. Children as young as newborn babies, because of what the mothers are going through, are actually suffering. And unfortunately, the increase in the number of diseases has also increased with the approach to the ease of availability of medicine instead of decreasing. So what would be your take on that?
Actually, the problem is that to understand the limitations of a medical system, like for example, Ayurveda, you must be able to understand the scope of the system.
Correct.
Nowadays, people are talking too much. I mean, people in Ayurveda community are talking too much about the limitations of the system. Why? Because of limitations of themselves. These limitations are happening because of flawed education. Professional education is deeply flawed. We are having a primitive curriculum and there is no training. There is no translational medicine training. See, nowadays, we must be knowing how to understand infection, how to reverse infection, even though these logics are mentioned in Ayurveda. How to reverse inflammation, how to understand hypersensitivity or allergy, how to understand autoimmune disorder, how to understand essential primary hypertension. These things are crucially meant to be present in the syllabus. If it is not there, definitely a physician will be a failure, and their failure cannot be misinterpreted as the failure of the science. It is only their failure, and it is happening because of flawed education. So to understand the scope of a system, I mean limitations of a system, it's really important that you should be at least trying hard to understand the scope of the system by acquiring proper knowledge and practice. This is the first thing. And second thing regarding integration, if you try to integrate two systems, whether it be Ayurveda or homeopathy, it's not effective. Why? Because both these systems are having entirely different rational content in their practice. How to understand a condition, how to understand a patient, what should be the approach in intervening upon infections, inflammation, etc. Entire logics. It is like you are asking if you combine German and French together and you are trying to teach a French person to make easy understanding for him. You want to teach German to a French person. So you're combining German and French and apply that language to teach him. He will not understand anything, right? So
No,
this
but
is what, there is no scope.
What I meant was that
aspect.
yes, what I meant was that because of the ease of availability of modern medicine, if there is any way that, you know, a department of Ayurveda, for example, can be mandatory in every hospital, because people should at least be given that option of getting there.
Yeah.
Right now, they don't have the option of getting there. And, you know, it is only, and this is such a practice that unfortunately it is spreading only through word of mouth because people are not aware.
Ishmeet ji, another problem is that this Ayurveda is not practiced in a standardized way today. You know, people of Kerala choose different medicines. People of middle part of India choose different medicines. They can choose different medicine, but there should be rational standards to adopted from the science, which is to be applied uniformly to understand the disease and treat the disease. This is not happening today. So it is a very dangerous situation, you know. So this should be provided by rational education in Ayurveda. That is the first thing to be achieved. There should be rational standards based on SBA. SBA has already done research. We have developed rational standards to do this. So these rational standards are to be incorporated in curriculum. There is no difference in the patient between patient of Madhya Pradesh and patient of Punjab and patient of Kerala. All patients with same identical situation means same. Cause mechanisms may vary, but nature of the disease, nature of cause mechanisms, everything are having rational standards. Yes. So these rational standards are to be taught uniformly, and some essential medicines, 15 medicines, I would say, 15 medicines, 15, should be there in every part of India based on these rational standards of prescribing. We know that we are in need of infection medicines. We are in need of metabolic diseases medicines. So 15 medicines. Now we are having endless number of medicines. You might have seen Ayurveda pharmacies loaded with medicine. That much is not needed in every part.
And so many combinations. And actually the ease of availability at the pharmaceutical stores is way more than actually getting to an Ayurvedic practitioner, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is true and unfortunate. But
the pharmacist has become the doctor who will tell you, oh, you know, you have this problem. Why don't you take this? This has a combination of X, Y, Z, and just take this remedy and it will help solve your purpose.
Over the counter, so many medicines are sold. And from neighbor stories, neighbors will tell you, you know, this is good for asthma. Then people will go, and recently one Giloy plant, one literature you might have seen it in the newspaper.
So the liver one.
Ayurveda is not all about medicinal plants. Ayurveda is science-based medicine. There is a specific science behind the logical choice and administration of the medicine with respect to the cause mechanism, state and stage of the every individual subject. It's not like administering Giloy in all the infections or metabolic diseases, whatever it is. There is no universal antidote. Any disease.
And unfortunately, what I have observed, because I am more into homeopathy, you know, about understanding of homeopathy, but the more I have read about Ayurveda with the interest towards it now, I have realized that, you know, people end up doing an overdo of everything. because these are herbs, इससे तो कुछ होगा नहीं. But one needs to realize that ashwagandha, giloy, tulsi, everything, because it is medicine, it has some purpose. That is why it is being prescribed to a particular person for a particular condition.
Exactly.
You can't
Yes.
think that having a tulsi tea every day will actually boost your immune system and will prevent you from all diseases. Till one day it says, I had so much of tulsi tea. How come I got this problem? It is because you had so much of tulsi tea, you probably landed yourself into something.
Yeah. There are so many patients who are coming now today with fear of COVID. They are taking lemon tulsi. They are having. They are taking many other cinnamon. So many things. Some are taking turmeric water. All these are very dangerous habits. See, turmeric in curry differs from turmeric in water. If you add turmeric in water, the potency is different. If you add quarter spoon in curry, it is different. Synergistic effect is there in curry. So many things you're adding in curry apart from turmeric. But you mix it in water and drink, the property is entirely different. And it can cause dehydration. It can cause hemorrhage. Even tulsi, long time use can cause hemorrhage. I have seen patients with hemarthrosis, joint. One woman came with blood accumulation in knee joint. On inquiring the history, it was found that she is a good singer. So she used to take tulsi decoction, tulsi water, medicated water, not decoction, for many months continuously to improve her throat. So such a kind of, it causes bleeding in her joint. And many times they have drained the blood. Again, it is happening. And people do not know why it is happening. Even doctors of modern medicine, because there is no concept for them like that.
Yeah.
But we are able to understand and we just reverse the cause and it's subsided. So even beware of the kind of herbs you use in medicated water. In your, like, you are making some decoction. Some are taking lemon plus honey. All these are not good. It can trigger many different types of problems in your body, immediately or later.
Lovely. I request everyone to please type your questions in the chat box and we'll be taking them in another 5 minutes before we wind up. Yeah. So doctor, another thing, it would be nice, if you could talk about the doshas, the Vat, Pitta, Kapha.
Yeah.
That's also one of the first things that comes to mind when we talk of Ayurveda.
Actually, generally people know when they hear Ayurveda, two things only strike their mind. One is Tridosha, second is Panchakara.
Right.
These are the two common things. Please understand that this is just one theorem. It's not a theory also. Theorem means it is Tridosha theorem means it is, there is a technical definition for theorem. It is like Parikshagir Bahuvidam Pariksha, that which is basic research by multiple scientists in multiple ways. And they have found out that there are 3 kinds of functional classification of structures possible in every cell of the human body. According to modern science, there is only one, the minutest level of classification is based on cell. We know that cell, tissue, organ, like that it goes. But in Ayurveda, there is subtlemost way of explanation. So inside the cell also there are structures, different structures. So based on the function, based on 3 kinds of function, anabolism, metabolism, or transformation, and catabolism. Based on these 3 main levels of functions, all the structures in the body are classified into. So it is a structure only. Vata is a structure, Pitta is a structure, Kapha is a structure. You can demonstrate them in individuals, healthy people, as well as diseased people. So this is the, in a short way, we can define Tridosha as functional classification of structures in the body. It is a functional classification of all structures. Fundamental most functional classification of all structures in the body is called as Tridosha. And it is not Tridosha alone, which is there in Ayurveda. There are many other Siddhantas like Saptadhatu is there, then so many other Srotas is there, Agni is there. It's not like Tridoshas alone. We are not treating an individual based on Tridosha alone. So many different aspects are there in diagnostics. Algorithms are there in diagnostics and therapeutics. Okay, but these are the fundamental most level of understanding of human body, that in a very precise way.
Okay. all the three doshas, because they usually say that an imbalance of these three doshas is the leading cause of the disease.
Yeah, like that it is, but generally the increase and decrease of doshas, what we are considering, even doshas we are observing in two different levels. I don't think there is any need to further dissect that, but just understand that doshas are present in health also and disease also, and every dosha performs its own function properly. And through dosha balance doesn't mean that quantity of vada is equal to quantity of pitta is equal to quantity of kapha. That is not what Tridosha equilibrium is. Make sure of that. The thing is that Vata should do its own function properly in its optimum way in its own period. Pitta should do its own function in a proper way, and Kapha should also do its own function in a proper way in the cell. So doing properly functions, that is what is called Samadosha. It is not like quantity of Vata, Pitta and Kapha equal. It will not be like that. It is dosha sama swakarmam kurvate, doing its own function without any loss of,
vitality,
without loss of integrity. That is what is called equilibrium of doshas. Yeah.
Lovely. Also, I would like everybody to know. So when I got in touch with Dr. Ramya and her husband, it was really nice to know that. It was really nice to know, but also very unfortunate for those of us living in the metro, especially. We do not have any Sibiba practitioner here, especially around Delhi NCR. And the beauty of them, doing their research on Sibiba is that they cannot treat people online because there's a lot of reading between the lines that goes on when they actually see the person in person, the individual in person. So, ma'am, if you could just lay some light on that also, why we don't do online consultation in Sibiba.
Yeah, the thing is that, as I told you, we cannot do any adjustment. We can do only treatment, right? For a patient with pain, it is easy to prescribe some painkiller over phone.
Yes.
Or a patient with fever, you can prescribe paracetamol over phone. But in Ayurveda, as I told you, we are treating you and not your fever. So we should be knowing what all things you have done yesterday, what you ate today, what you did today morning. Did you do anything unusual? Like, did you do oil massage and take bath? What kind of food you have eaten? And whether you have some other diseases, you were treated for some other diseases. What was we have to estimate your immune status, former immune status. So many things are to be done, and we have to examine you. We have to examine your vitals and many other things beyond vitals, which are recommended to be examined by Ayurvedic treatises. So these things are not possible over phone. I don't understand exactly. A scientific practitioner of Ayurveda is not possible to treat patient over phone. We can, of course, if we have treated a patient once, maybe we will be able to get the basic understanding if he shares our prescription, because in our prescription we'll be writing the basic things. Correct. So by looking at it, we'll be able to get some basic idea. Apart from that, our new patient means it is a new problem. It's a new problem. It's not any old problems which are solved. Every patient is a new problem.
Correct.
Problem in the sense, we have to solve it. We cannot do some adjustment. And it is human body. If it is a mixie, then it is okay. You can go and buy a new one. This is not the case of human body. And third, you will be finally, bad reputation will be happening to the practitioner and the system, and not whatever you have done wrong or any misunderstanding between doctor and the patient, etc. That will not be considered. Finally, what you will be telling, I have undergone treatment, but it didn't work. So it didn't work means so much. Our system do not deserve to get such blame. So we have to do justice to patient, all of you, as well as science. Both. We have double responsibility to our science as well as to the patient. So for our best rendering of our knowledge and applied skills, we ask the patient, SBBA practitioners will not treat you first time for online. And follow-ups, if at all the doctor is agreeing for follow-up, it is fine. It cannot be considered as mandatory follow-ups over phone or anything. Sometimes it may require your direct presence also. So this is the problem. That's why we have recommended this to be this every patient deserves to get science-based, evidence-based Ayurveda. Why? Because Ayurveda as it is science-based, evidence-based. There is no other Ayurveda. Ayurveda as it is. I sincerely pray every day that tomorrow Ayurveda should be recognized by the world as science-based, evidence-based Ayurveda. Why? Because Ayurveda is science-based, evidence-based, and not tradition-based or culture-based or medicine-based or Panchakarma-based, etc. So we requested Government of India, Ministry of Ayush also, please take up this. Let us have a discussion or symposium. We have sent mails several times, but don't know what will happen in future. But some or other reason, maybe the entire thing are to change. They have to restructure the policies, current educational policies, research policies. There should be clinical practice guidelines, uniform standards. I told you, no, a doctor in Madhya Pradesh will treat different. Different in the sense his understanding itself will be different from that of a patient, a doctor in Kerala. Even doctors in Kerala are following 1,000 different logics. It is not like that. Science means standardized logic for a situation. To explain a situation, standardized logic is there. We have studied standardized logics in physics, chemistry, mathematics, etc. So it cannot vary from person to person based on the same condition, same situation. So here what happens is it is varying, which means that it has to be resolved by proper restructuring of the policies, principles, etc., which are needed. Then the whole India and whole world science-based, evidence-based, recognized Ayurveda medical practice. I mean, service. This has to happen. That is, we all are praying for that.
So we'll just take up the questions, Doctor.
Sure.
Yeah. How a BAMS degree holder becomes a CBIBA? How can a BAMS degree holder become a CBIBA practitioner?
Okay, nowadays it is after lockdown, it is becoming a very difficult procedure. First of all, I recommend that BAMS doctors, all the BAMS doctors, they should try to get fundamental science understanding by reading the book Evidence-Based Ayurveda and Prescribing. Means qualified BAMS practitioners, I am telling. Evidence-based Ayurveda and rational prescribing are defining and describing the basic principles and standards to a certain extent. So the starting book will be this one only. After that, it cannot, SBBS seminars we were conducting. We have conducted about 50 seminars with workshops. We are conducting webinars, but it is of no use of conducting webinars. Why? Because this is something which is intended to be taught in BAMS. You know, every year of BAMS, this is not being learned. Instead of that, students are cutting medicinal plants. Students are learning lab technology. But these crucial algorithms, how to understand a disease, how to apply standardized way, these things are not taught. And finally, after BAMS, how can you expect to learn the entire thing in one stretch? It's really a difficult task. But to understand basic manner of like many things we have to unlearn. Presently, when you ask Tridoshas, people will tell different things. It is energy, it is matter, something like it is karmas, functions, like that variable opinions will come. But science is not opinion. Science has to be defined because science already it is there. Definition is there, structure of explanation, demonstration, everything is there. It has to be taught. It has to be educated to the students, which is not happening. So it has to be initiated by Government of India, and SBBA curriculum should be the BAMS curriculum. That is the only way I find as the ultimate solution. But you can attend seminars when the seminars are opening. You can join SBBA Wisdom Series where notifications will appear on seminars. And we are trying our best to reach more people. It's our mission to reach all the Ayurveda doctors of country first, to initiate rational prescribing. We are trying our best. Let us see.
Yeah. Is there a way an MBBS graduate with some bridging take up CBIBA practice? So I think it would be the same thing as your.
Yeah, it's not possible. Why? Because in MBBS curriculum, there is no Ayurveda. In Ayurveda curriculum, we are having MBBS, everything except biochemistry and microbiology. Because our science does not count these two things, biochemistry and microbiology, except that all the other things like pharmacology, pathology, anatomy, physiology, whatever MBBS curriculum is mentioning, same amount of surgery, everything basics, we are not only basics, we are learning advanced also, all these aspects. But MBBS student is not learning all this. So for them, it is mandatory to take up BAMS again if they really want to become SBBA practitioner. No shortcuts are there for that.
Please let us know if there's a solution for type 1, that's juvenile diabetes in SBA, SBEBA.
Juvenile diabetes, we have done only in very limited cases. I have done 5 cases, among which 2 cases are presently out of insulin. 3 cases I had to drop because the patients were from this distant area. 1 patient didn't respond. It was an infant baby. Within 2 days itself, I recognized that it is not possible to treat. But other 2 patients, I was not able to follow up. But right now, 2 patients are there who are out of insulin for the last 2 years without any medicine. So that is the condition. I want to extend the research. We want to extend the research, more research in this aspect, type 1 diabetes.
Ma'am, there's somebody asking, we have to focus on Virya. So what about Rasa, Guna, and Vipak? Please guide.
Actually, these things are technical aspects. I think for layman, these are all the different components of pharmacodynamics of the medicine. Whether what is responsible for the action of medicine. That is what is called pharmacodynamics, or what medicine does to the person. That is based on the medicine, which is technically termed as Rasa, Guna, Virya, etc. Actually, what is the question? What are they? Are the question is the question?
Yeah. What about these 3 then? Since you mentioned,
it is actually an entirely. I don't think this platform will be appropriate. It's a vast topic. I will have to go into the technical side more, and it will take time. Yeah.
How to reach out to an SBBA practitioner in Bangalore, JP Nagar?
Yeah, in Bangalore, if you come on that SBBA Wisdom Series group, we will guide you which all doctors. 3 doctors are there in Bangalore. I don't know whether JP Nagar or not. So more may be there. We will try to find out who all are there, SBBA practitioners. Please come on to that group of Facebook. If you are on Facebook, join SBBA Wisdom Series group. There you will get information. Okay.
Somebody is again asking, ma'am, as we have been taught in college, if drug dosage is not in appropriate quantity, medicine will not work at its best. Then how these pinches of medicine is working? Please guide. I think it's all some of your students who are there.
So medicine is not working by the dose. Medicine is working by the principle. That is the reason. Medicine, it's not like yena kurvanti sa viryam. Yena means by what means a medicine works. It's not dosage, no. A medicine is working by virya, potency. So if you are choosing the right medicine, in most minimum, why we are choosing minimum, I already explained. Why we are, because patient is having impaired digestion, metabolism, immune status, altered, toxins are there. So if you dump in so much dose, we have to, this is what is called updating the science. We have to convert the science in such a manner. Conventional man, we must understand. Ayurveda is a science of man, but as long as man exists as man. But in olden times, the digestive status, metabolic status, lifestyle, people are not on any chemical medicines, not on synthetic foods. Their diseases are not suppressed, masked, altered, etc. And their metabolic status, everything is altered. So in olden times, it was not like that, but now it is. The man which you see or the patient which you see in front is entirely different. Different in the sense, all these functional aspects, they are different. So we must always start from the minimum because it is potency that works. It is not dosage that works. And our scientists have told correctly, it is like lock and key mechanism. Tasmin kale tat adhigaranam asarya. Adhigarana means receptor. So if you are choosing the right medicine in tasmin kale, in the right state and stage, right cause mechanisms, the potency, not the dosage. I mean, medicine potency is that which is working. It will be working on the target, exactly on the target, and action is initiated. So excess medicine, excess dosage means sometimes it may get metabolized and eliminated. in excess dose. Actually, when there is no need of excess dose, we can start with the minimum dose. That is the point.
Correct. What is your output on patent versus classical Ayurveda medicines, ma'am?
Actually, classical medicines are converted to patent formulations now, like Kashaya, we can administer easily as tablets. So that is a very good innovation that Kashaya, especially bottle Kashayas may contain preservatives. So nowadays, we are having tablets with less preservatives and binding agents. And it is easy to administer in fragment dosage approach. And we can evaluate easily. Patient can modify the dosage according to their body condition. Like for example, asthma patient, whenever some trigger happens, he knows how to take 1 granule every 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So it is easy to consume. Palatability is a big problem in children. So this can be overcome by this patent medicines. But there are many, at the same time, there are many irrational combinations which are emerging as patent medicines, like for example, antihypertensives in Ayurveda. There is no anti-ing drug in Ayurveda. There is no anti-ing medicine in Ayurveda. As I told, medicines are intended based on principles to reverse cause mechanism. So you cannot give some Sarpagandha extract is used as antihypertensive or Arjuna or what you call many different types of medicines that are being used as antihypertensive patent tablet. It is very much wrong. You cannot treat a disease in such an approach, by adopting such an approach. You have to understand why raised BP in that patient. It could be by dehydration or inflammation or impaired metabolism or infection or immune dysfunction. So you must be probing into the patient, and you must be choosing medicine to reverse the cause mechanism of that particular pathogenesis responsible for that condition in the patient. So these patent drugs are having good side and bad side. Classical medicines converting to patent, we can use judiciously, but many irrational patent formulations are now emerging for leukorrhea, for menstrual bleeding, for asthma, like that. That is absolute nonsense. You should not be going for joint pain, some capsules, for BP, some capsules, for migraine, some capsules. This is utter stupidity because Ayurveda is science-based medicine and not medicine-oriented science.
Again, somebody is asking how to join CIBIBA.
Right now, when we are conducting any training programs, it will be coming. The notification will appear in Wisdom Series group. You can join SBBA Wisdom Series in Facebook. So their notifications will appear. We will be conducting seminars and workshops sometimes in future also. So when any such programs come, notification will appear. And you can connect with organizers.
Ma'am, somebody is asking a little controversial question here, but what are your views about the vaccine?
I think this platform is not, as such, Ayurveda as such has many other methods instead of vaccine. That much only I can say, because innate immune system is there. We are entirely focusing upon innate immune system, and whether vaccines are needed or not is not entirely a controversial and personal matter. You can decide. What I know is that it is voluntary and not mandatory. So it is up to you to decide whether you need vaccine or not. I think that it's not a scopeful subject for this platform.
How effective is Ayurveda treatment for skin diseases like macular amyloidosis, for which there is no cure in allopathy?
All the skin diseases, actually there is nothing called skin disease. Again, that is what is translational medicine is. When a patient comes with skin lesions, an Ayurveda, scientific Ayurveda practitioner must get training to understand whether it is skin disease itself or a systemic disease manifested in the skin. This is the first point. Second, he must be knowing whether it is infective or inflammatory or autoimmune or allergic. What is the cause? And SBBA has developed guidelines, specific guidelines to how to intervene upon an infective skin lesion, upon an autoimmune skin lesion, or an allergic skin lesion, etc., or whether it is infection, etc. So such kind of classic that differentiation matters. It's not like there are In Ayurveda, the skin disease, the technical term for skin disease is kushta. But kushta is not leprosy. Kushta means skin disease in Ayurveda. There are different types of skin manifestations explained in the science. But we must know and do exactly according to the present needs. This is what is called translational medicine. When a patient comes to you, there are innumerable medicines, innumerable treatments in the science. We should be knowing what kind of lesion it is, whether it is skin disease itself or whether it is another disease manifested in the skin. And if it is another disease, what kind of cause mechanisms are there behind the disease? So we must be doing this so and so logics, this principle in this disease, in this patient. Patient is having some other problem, so we have to intertangle them. So such an approach is mentioned in Ayurveda. So skin disease as such, we have to go beyond the skin disease. We have to go deep into the patient and understand.
Do you have some remedy for restoring motor movements in body after spine surgery?
Actually, we can do, but we can do only after assessing the strength of the patient and many other factors. Definitely, we can guide such patients.
Is it good to have medicated water, say a glass or two daily? And is it good for kids 4 to 12 years as well?
Medicated water is not meant to take 1 or 2 glasses daily. It is meant to substitute the normal water which you are drinking. In place of normal water you are drinking, you have to take medicated water. So for specific conditions, it is being recommended by practitioners. SBBA practitioners are recommending it specific to, sometimes you may be healthy, but they will be able to understand, they will be able to estimate what kind of diseases you are prone to. Like you have a history of gallbladder stone. Your SBBA practitioner will be able to estimate. We have trained such methodologies. So they will be able to estimate what kind of medicated water will help you to prevent formation of stones in future. And of course, it is not a matter of water alone. There are other things as well. But water is something which we drink for the whole day. So the process of medicated water, the concept of medicated water is to convert water into medicine. It should not be like so much of medicine in water and boiling. It is also inappropriate. That's what I'm telling. Everything is so specific in Ayurveda. It's not like whatever herbs or what whoever recommends you have to put in water and boiling. It's not the medicated water which is scientific. Scientific medicated water will be advised strictly based on your unique circumstances in your body, and it will be of pinches in water. It's not like 1 spoon or anything. It will be pinches, and it will be for a specific period or lifelong sometimes. That all dependent on your condition. Anyway, it is to rectify your underlying problem and habituate your immune system, metabolic system, etc., to reverse the problem as much as possible, along with other regimen also, like exercise. Even after the treatment is stopped, we advise not to stop medicated water. We recommend exercises, specific exercises, when to do, what to do, etc. This is for your safety. And if you change anything on your will, harm is for you. So everything is to be followed correctly.
Is it possible that the Ayurvedic treatment be demographically oriented, as in depending upon the environmental structure and traditional food intake?
It can be implemented in population as well. But the thing is that individual education is important. We have to, like now we are doing public awareness programs in infective fevers. We are doing it, and we are doing a project right now. I proudly announce it. Hastalamba, there is a project, Ayurveda first aid program we are implementing, SBBA. We are not giving any medication to patients who are having infective fevers. They can register by using a link, and volunteers will direct them to SBBA practitioners, where they will be on phone. Everything will be on phone, because this is first aid and not treatment. So they will provide non-medicational first aid guidelines to be adopted in viral fever to you. So it is more personalized also, because every individual is able to connect with the SBBA practitioner. But as mass programs also, we can educate the masses, basic things. That's what I told, resistance strategies we can educate. This is something which Honorable Prime Minister is also to know. Right now, everybody is following avoidance strategies uniformly. Why can't they adopt resistance strategies? Then there will be a period where there is no panic for infections. Every person can follow this medicated water. Every person can follow such and such foods. And every person must eat only when they are hungry. Every person must boost their hunger. Every person must do exercise in empty stomach. Every person must avoid junk food and dangerous foods. There are 3 categories of foods: most dangerous, less dangerous, dangerous. So A, B, C categories are there. So based on the condition, people, for example, a 20 years old boy can do B category foods in COVID time also, not when he is infected, because he is playing a lot. If he is playing a lot, but sedentary lifestyle person should not take even C category also. So like that, all people there can be a uniform training program where no medication needs to be advised, only lifestyle modification can be done. And this will work a lot in preventing and reversing in current pathetic status in our nation. So this is possible. Population awareness programs are possible. And we are doing also to a certain extent. Yeah.
Doctor, do you have time at hand? Because we are already over time now. And there are still a lot of questions. Would you like to take them?
A few more, I don't mind, really. Few more, just a few more.
Does CBIBA prescribe a particular lifestyle which will help one stay healthy in optimal health? As it said, prevention is better than cure.
Yeah, but optimum health also, the cause circumstances responsible for a person's health will also vary. That depends on like many factors, like his genes, the nature of lifestyle that he adopts. Some people will be non-veg, some people will be mixed, some people will be vegetarian. Then again, generally we can give a lifestyle like what I told just before now. I think Ishmitji, that can be adopted. It is a uniform thing which I explained just before now. Do it, boosting your hunger, number 1. Wait for good hunger, best hunger to have food.
Correct.
And when you're eating, make sure that your belching is pure. Means if you're getting any previous food smell in your belching, it's not time to take food. And don't take excess food, like full stomach. You have to leave a portion. And you should eat light food, light, easy to digest. Vada is not digest light food. Vada and samosa is not light food, even if you eat one. So idli is also not light food. So light by nature, like gruel is light food, wheat gruel or rice gruel. Even fulka chapatis are light food. So like that, you have to, based on the nature also, lightness is considered.
I think you could let them know about the 3 that you mentioned, the most dangerous, the not so dangerous.
That's really difficult now because people will be of variable foods. Based on a single individual only, I can advocate which is C, which is B.
Okay.
Which is A, yeah.
Okay. Then can a normal person follow SNS diet with medicated water 1 day in a week? After following this, my acidity problem greatly reduced.
Yeah, exactly. So one cleanup is required. Generally, I recommend this to all children and old people nowadays. If you are eating every food, everything for all the 6 days, why can't we do 1 day cleanup? 1 day cleanup doesn't mean taking some laxatives and getting bowel movement. That is not cleanup. Cleanup means you have to wait, boost your hunger. Boost your hunger and eat only light food when you are most hungry. You have to drink medicated water. Medicated water can be made as a habit because it is infective period. And you have to do good sort of exercise every day. That is also not meant for cleanup day. But cleanup day, best thing to do is boosting hunger and eating light. If you are doing this, this will create a big change in your life. You can make it to 2 days also instead of 1 day, 2 days a week. It can be continuous or intermittent, whatever way you wish. But this will change a lot. Maybe there are so many diseases which you are having on multiple drugs. You will understand the difference in your body. So this can be done.
Is there any CBIBA doctor in Chennai?
No, right now there is no SBB doctor in Chennai.
Okay.
I think such questions can be asked in FB group, Wisdom Series group. Instead of asking here, they'll be able to get.
Ma'am, we have heard of some lead content and some other particles too in medicines. How far is it true? Can you please explain that? Thank you.
Lead content and all in herbs. Actually, when the herbs are cultivated, medicinal herbs are cultivated near factories or anything, maybe there is a chance. Other than that, all the good manufacturing companies are following quality control procedures. Ayurveda pharmacognostical aspect studies, quality of the medicines. There are many good manufacturers in India right now who are adopting all these quality parameters, quality control procedures. So you don't need to worry about those company products which are controlled, which are adopting good quality control standards in their manufacturing. And second thing, it is like most of the things which we are, even the water we drink is having lead or such things are possible. Why? Because sometimes bore well water, sometimes well water in villages. Recently, I read an article, well water in villages containing lead. So such kind of adulteration is possible because we are living in a polluted land now.
Correct.
But to nullify all these poisoning, as such Ayurveda medicines are not made of lead or mercury or anything. Even if mineral preparations recommended in Ayurveda, there are specific standards and specific recommendations regarding how to purify these medicines and how to use them safely in intended situations, in intended dosages. So very specific guidelines are there in Ayurveda texts itself, treatises itself, which are intended to be followed by scientific practitioners of Ayurveda. So as such, there is no question of lead toxicity or whatever it is in Ayurveda. You can be sure of that, provided these conditions are met.
With the lockdown, everyone is sitting in front of laptops for more than 5 hours a day, even the kids. This takes a toll on eyes. Is there any CIBIBA guideline to take care of eyes to prevent permanent damage due to excess screen exposure?
This is called like you are giving, one patient will tell, I want to take alcohol, you do something to detoxify alcohol, like that. So we have to, for this Ayurveda advocates a measure called self-realization, promoting self-realization. There are 3 types of approach. Dhi, Dhairya, Atmadi Vijnana. Dhi means intelligence, to distinguish what is right and what is wrong. That is called Dhi. Dhridi means control of mind. When you know that this thing can trigger your pathogenesis and you are having that power to control that food for the specific period. That is what is called Dhridi. Dhridi means we are able to control the wrong things. That is Dhridi. That kind of knowledge and practice is to be developed in those all the patients. Dhi, Dhridi, and this Atma Vijnana. Atma Vijnana means self-realization. Right. The patient is to be, or a subject is to be provided self-realization. If you do this, what will happen? Nowadays, kids lack the knowledge about consequences. They don't think about consequences. Even many parents I have seen, they are not promoting anything in the children to get them know about the consequences. Like if you take this now, in infective status, if you take this now, you can suffer later. You may be in ICU, doctors may inject you. Such a kind of awareness, like your body will get very weak. You may not be able to get up and walk. When your friends play, you will not be able to play. So this is a fact. When your immune system is gone, everything is gone. So if you continuously watch TV, it is not merely a problem of eyes. Correct. There are children who are gone into depression also by continuous mobile TV. And we don't know radiations in mobile will affect children and to what extent. There are many controversial studies on this. So the only way is to increase self-realization. So many parents disagree with me telling that this will induce stress in them. That stress is far better than the detrimental consequences which is going to happen in the child. If you allow the children to watch TV I have seen children feeding in front of TV, parents feeding children in front of TV, in front of mobile, etc. So these habits are to be withdrawn by the parents. Parents themselves are to set examples by doing. This is the only way, and self-realization is to be inculcated in children.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Just one last question, doctor, and then we'll wind up. Is having raw ginger tea in tea every day helpful or detrimental? Or is it what's good for one is bad for the others?
Yeah. Raw ginger as such is not good for everyone. There are contraindications for ginger. For skin disease patients, for anemia patients, for bleeding patients, any kind of bleeding, or in physiological bleeding period like menstrual bleeding, etc. Then in fever status, people do not know that in fever status, wet ginger should not be used. Dry ginger in certain conditions recommended by a scientific practitioner can be used. It's not like ginger as a universal antibiotic. So there are always, that's what I'm telling, Ayurveda is entirely based on deductionist approach, deductive reasoning, general to specific. From a general approach, what, here, why, how, when, where, the deductive reasoning based application is only advocated in Ayurveda. So this has to be taken care of. Yeah.
With this, we'll come to the end of this session. If anyone has any more questions, we can take them up later.
Yeah.
Definitely, we'll come up with more different topics, and we'll try to cover up as much as we can, because this is a science that needs to go to the masses. And like most other alternative medicine practitioners also who are practicing it authentically, with letting the body heal in a holistic way. So we'll try and bring as much